The regular meeting of the Richmond Board of Education will come to order. Please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag
of the United States of
America
and
to
to
the
the republic
for which it stands,
one nation,
one nation,
God,
under God,
indivisible,
indivisible,
with
with liberty and justice for all. Before we get started this evening, I'd like to remind our board members to please have our phones on Do Not Disturb, and please refrain from texting during the meeting as it can be distracting. Thank you. Bridget, our mission statement, please.
At Richmond Community Schools, we provide a quality education that empowers students to be successful in a global community.
Thank you. Bridget, our roll call.
Deb Michon.
I'm attending virtually from Columbus Township, St. Clair County, Michigan.
Angela Pacito.
Remote participation, City of Richmond, Macomb County, Michigan.
I am remote, Casco Township, St. Clair County, Michigan. Kyle Simmons.
Attending virtually, City of Richmond, Macomb County, Michigan.
Danielle Sutton.
Attending virtually, Casco, St. Clair County.
Margaret Telto.
Attending virtually, Casco Township, St. Clair County, Michigan.
And Sherry Zuby.
Attending remotely from Casco Township, St. Clair County, Michigan.
Thank you. We have a quorum.
Thank you, Bridget. At this time, I'm looking for a motion to approve the agenda.
I motion to accept the agenda as presented.
Support.
Sorry, Sherry.
Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
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 Any opposed? Motion carries. This time, I'm looking for a motion to approve the consent agenda.
I motion to accept the recommendation of the superintendent and approve the consent agenda as presented in the attached documentation.
Support.
Thank you. Any discussion, Mr. Walmsley?
Just recognition of two employees, Kaylee Turnen and Monica LaPiccolo. Monica was a bus driver. Kaylee was in childcare. Both has resignations to, they received positions in outside of the school district and in other areas, obviously with more benefits and more pay. So I wish them nothing but the best. They both did an outstanding job during their tenure in Richmond.
Any other discussion?
Just, Mr. Walmsley, wasn't Monica the one who always drove us in the parade every
Yes,
year?
Monica was, and we recently worked with Monica to provide her additional hours as part of a custodial bus driver combination. It's the benefit package.
Oh, yeah.
But Monica's done a wonderful job. She also does the piano accompanying.
Oh, that's right.
Music programs.
Yep.
Okay, any other questions or any other discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries. At this point, Mr. Walmsley is going to give us a bond update.
Okay, if you've been around the school on Tuesday, the portable offices arrived. Just to give the community and the board an update. This weekend, we will be moving the middle school art room and the middle school Title I room to other locations in the middle school building. That will allow us to begin the work on the new office areas at the middle school, to begin that renovation and demolition really March 1st. Next weekend, I believe that's the 3rd or 6th and 7th, that Saturday, Sunday, we'll be moving the board offices and the weight room. Weight room will move to the mini gym at the middle school, and the board offices will move outside to the portable classroom, which will also allow us to pull work ahead from the summer's work at the middle school. Today, I had an opportunity to walk by the elementary school additions. They've primed some of the brick walls in some of the bathrooms. They've got the ceiling grids in. Cabinets for the student cubbies where they put their coats and storage arrived and were placed in the classroom. The heating and cooling units will begin being installed soon. So we are moving ahead. It looks like that the new additions will be done by the time school gets out, so that the focus and energy at the middle school, or excuse me, at the elementary school can be on the rest of the building. At the high school, you can see some of the site work has begun. The bulldozers and all that are back there digging up the ground to do the plumbing and all the underground stuff for the new gymnasium and weight room. In the evening, we have had electricians working to get most of the electrical new lines run in the ceiling. Also, the week of the 6th and 7th, we will be moving the robotics area out of I'm going to say their practice area, where the new robotics wing will be at, so that that work can be pushed ahead. And the entrances for both the robotics as well as the new culinary arts will begin shortly after in March. So you'll start seeing the new canopies go up and so forth. We're trying to move as much work ahead as possible. Upcoming during spring break, which will be here in about a little over a month, we will be doing some more asbestos abatement in our buildings. We're moving full speed ahead to get as much work done before the summer. I just received today the phasing plan for the elementary parking lot and the roads, beginning June 16th. The part from the traffic circle up through basically the existing front parking lot will all be redone. So that brand new parking lot that we've expanded, as well as the road that will run on the outside of the parking lot, will be done. Approximately mid-July-ish, we will do the renovation for the other half of the elementary parking lot, which will be from the forest through the existing front parking lot. It's being done in 2 phases to allow emergency vehicles to get into the building should there be an emergency. They can either access from forest during phase 1 or access from the traffic circle from phase 2. So we're staggering that to make sure we have access to the building. Otherwise, it's things are moving along. I'm very excited, and it's going to be a brand new district in a couple months.
Thank you.
Wait,
Oops, sorry.
that's okay. Brian, has there been any talk for summer fall sports that start up? Is everybody ready, like for Plan B or wherever they're going to be able to do their stuff because of the construction?
We are working with each group. We're putting all the athletic equipment when we empty the buildings into specific trailers so that we'll have access to those for those programs that need access. Mr. Reinhardt will be working with each program and has started that. We haven't finished what their plan is for outside, when they'll be able to use the outside facility and when they won't be able to use it. The gymnasium, the inside will be pretty much off limits. So we're looking at alternate sites for some programs that start in the fall. But those are still in I'm gonna say the development. We haven't finalized all those plans yet, but that is what we're doing currently right now.
Okay.
Anyone else?
And just a reminder, that student parking lot, we will have about 50 semi-trailers in there that will be where we empty the entire building, and all that will be stored in that front parking lot. So there won't be much parking in that front parking lot in the month of July and August.
Okay, thank you.
No problem.
At this time, Mr. Walmsley, we'll have our presentation on our COVID-19 learning plan.
Okay, let me give me a second just to pull it up. Maybe there it goes. Share screen. Okay, in front of you, you should have the February 22nd return COVID-19, the extended COVID-19 learning plan. Just a reminder, this is a requirement by section, a law that was passed by the legislature back in August, that every month the board review the plan. In this plan, we keep a running record of public comment, what we've done, and notes, etc. Not at our last board meeting, but at the last special meeting, we had a parent come up and talk to the board to consider some options in the plan. And I'm going to address some of those in the plan because it is something that we need to continue looking at and following up. But basically the recommendation that is before you is to continue as we are doing the current in-person as well as virtual option for students, which would be a live synchronous instruction. There was a couple of points, and you'll see here in the plan here, I've added those points regarding what some of the a parent said. One of them talked about encouraging screening before students go home, or excuse me, leave home and help parents. That is a challenge that we have, because on all the communication that's been sent out, we've asked parents, please double check if your child has symptoms, do not send them. And we've had situations, in fact, my conversation with the parent, that a good chunk of the situations we've dealt with have been because students have come to school with symptoms, which then results in many students being quarantined. In looking at where the CDC guidelines are, and I'll see if I can pull this up here, maybe. This is currently from the CDC website, and one of the things that was talked about is, do we have a system where students check in, whether it's an app or so forth. The current guidelines here do not recommend conducting a symptoms screening for students, and leave the onus on the parents or caregivers to monitor their students at home and not send students to school before that. I do have the app that the parent referenced. I will be calling the school district that currently uses it, because there's some concerns with some of the apps that I did investigate between this board meeting and when the parent spoke. The apps that I came across were dealing with students entering their information, addresses, information, and a third party holding that student information, which would be in essence, a violation of our policy in providing that information. More concerning is what that personal information of students and where it goes. I did spend one of the days over at the high school on the entrance, just standing at one of the doors, checking the amount of students that walk in on a phone. And I would probably say easily that there's 95% of our students have cell phones of some fashion that would be allowed an app. I would probably say the other 5 were walking in sleepy, so I don't know if they had a cell phone. So, but it is one thing that I'm going to look at, and we'll talk as an administrative team, the logistics. Based on the app that was described, a student takes the onus of answering the questions, and then a green screen or a red screen shows up that you would just show to the person at the door to basically see, are you cleared or not? Again, my main concern was who has that information on students. The one app that I explored, based on your location and tracking, will tell you if you've been in the proximity of someone, and I feel very uncomfortable releasing that information about students to someone we don't know. The other part, let me minimize this, was talking about the screening and when students return to school. We do follow the Macomb County Health Department. And when I click on this one, anybody can access this information. There's nothing secret about it. It's actually all on the Macomb County website. It gives you a flow chart that we follow, basically answering yes, no questions. And if a student has a probable case or has been in contact with someone, they've tested negative, so they're not a COVID-19, it still requires them to complete a 10-day quarantine. And I think the recommendation was to move to 7 days. So I have brought it up at our superintendent's meeting that we meet on a monthly basis, or excuse me, on a weekly basis, to see, but right now that's the guidelines that we follow online. So in this plan, you'll see that at the elementary school, and I've just added that under each of the grade levels. At the elementary, middle school, high school, we're recommending continuing our current program, which is in-person and virtual. We will add the public comment for tonight, because in a portion of the meeting, we'll take public comment on this specific plan. If we look at two-way communications, I'm going to scroll down to the February timeframe, which would actually be,
Right there.
Right over here. Sorry, sorry about that. Since the last time we met, which has been week 19, January 18th through the 22nd, we averaged a 98.97% attendance rate. Just a reminder, attendance is considered getting 2 present codes within a week. Doesn't mean they were there the whole week. They could have been there for secondary 2nd hour and 5th hour during the week, and that counts as a present code for the formula that's used by the state. And you got to keep in mind, each different district has a very different virtual versus in-person learning. Some districts do a hybrid, some districts do 1 day on, 1 day off. Some districts are still virtual. The week of January 25th through January 29th, we average a 99.36 rate. February 1st through February 5th, we average a 99.68% rate. And the week of February 8th and through February 12th, we averaged a 99.04%. So again, we have a very strong in-person as well as virtual plan and participation. I think ours, there's many districts that are beginning to copy our district. Our students, I believe, have had the most interaction this year instruction-wise than many districts in Macomb County, just because we've been in person. So we will take note of any public comments, especially from parents, any ideas and suggestions. As a collective group, we are trying to continue enforcing the masks, enforcing social distance, trying to maintain to be in person. We did have a positive case report today, so I have to issue the parent letter out. My goal is to send it out before I leave, so it's scheduled to go out tomorrow. And again, the administrative team has done the contact tracing. I just can't thank everybody enough, from the students all the way up through the staff, because everybody's doing their part so that we can stay in person and continue going through the rest of the year. So my recommendation to the board would be to continue, confirm what we're doing, and keep going and not amend the plan.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Walmsley. At this time, we have public, whoops,
Can we ask questions?
sure, go for it.
Okay. Brian, 2 things, just so I understand, the parent that had the question in that app, you haven't ruled out that app, you're looking more into it? Is that the gist of what I got?
Correct. This afternoon, she actually texted me and sent me the actual school district that use it, and I know the superintendent. I worked with them in the past, so I'm going to give him a call tomorrow to see how they're using it. It's a larger district than us, to see how they're using it as students are entering the building. It's really a visual, so that we have people at the door, for instance, at the high school, and this may be more of a high school issue than an elementary and middle school, because at the elementary and middle school, there's less students, especially at the elementary school, there's significantly less than the high school that are carrying cell phones to school. So this may be just a high school option, but we basically have 2 doors that students enter, the main door and the door by the cafeteria, and we have staff there that take their temperature. So it would be an app that they would just basically show the screen. If the screen is green, they've answered the questions that yes, they do not have symptoms. There's no guarantee based on the apps that I did see. It doesn't prevent someone from lying. So this goes back to, we're all in this together, and it doesn't help anybody if we are sending students to school who have symptoms, or we know they have symptoms. They really need to stay home. And, we have worked with parents on moving them to virtual if they need to be virtual for a period of time. And we really just need to be, we're all working together, because it affects so many people when someone comes to school with the symptoms and it turns out that they're positive. We get it that there are people out there who have no symptoms and they're asymptomatic, and they may come and spread it, and now the person who's contacted may get it. That happens. We understand that. But if you knowingly send someone to school, that's where I think people are getting frustrated. And that's what we're trying to do. I'm going to explore the app. Once I get some more information, I'll sit down with the administrative team to see, okay, let's look at logistically, is this even something that's feasible for our district and the size? And if it is it something we want to implement and bring to the board to put into the plan for the return to school?
Okay. And then last time when we talked about sports starting up and I asked the question about with wrestling, the wrestlers were getting tested and Mr. Reinhardt had said that the health department was taking care of, because I asked the cost of the test, but who was administering them? And nothing had started yet. He didn't really have an answer. What's going on with that? Who's administering those tests?
Right now, we have Mr. Reinhardt, and there is a, and forgive me, I'm drawing a blank. I could picture the face. We have a parent who's a nurse who helps them, but basically they swab the mouth. It's not the nasal that goes up your nose that if
Okay.
you've had the COVID test, it's a swab. We have conducted those tests. Mr. Reinhardt brings me the results of the ones that have passed after we've done them. This actually, we had an athlete who tested positive, but it wasn't the test that we would normally exclude students of. The student has since gone and got a test, and that's where we have it. We have a positive case in the athletics, so we're dealing with the contact tracing at this point. As far as costs, they are being run through the MISD. They're being
Okay.
delivered there, and we get the test from the MISD. Actually,
But we're not paid. It's not costing
we
the
are
school
not
district.
paying for them. The district does not have to
Okay.
pay for them. They're actually running through the MISD.
Okay, thank you.
I have a comment. Yes, I do. As far as the student screener, Brian, do you know of any other districts besides the one you're going to contact that might do either the app or some other screener because that do it for the students? Are you?
The districts that I contacted, and I did pose it at our last superintendent's meeting, but it wasn't 100% attendance at the last one because the date and time shift because the governor had a press conference during our meeting. We weren't sure what she was going to say, so we rescheduled it. But the ones that I've talked to in Macomb County, nobody has a student screener. They're all following the guidelines of if your child has symptoms, don't send them to school, and putting the onus on the parent or the guardian. But I have not talked to every Macomb County school. My goal is to get to the rest of them. The one that I'm referencing is an Oakland County school that I'm going to reference and see they have quite a few more students entering their high school than we have district-wide. So logistically, that might be working for them, but I'm going to reach out to them. But right now, I do not have any Macomb County schools that are using the app. I'm not saying that there isn't any. It's just the ones that I've contacted to date. None of them are using it.
Okay, because I agree with your privacy issue and what that may entail with the app. I do know, like, you can make a Google form that asks screener questions, and you can limit it to as much information as you want, and just include a name, and it'll put it into a Excel spreadsheet, all the answers. It's something I use at work, but I know that it would be time consuming. Somebody would have to look it over. And obviously, like you said, people can not answer honestly. If they do answer honestly, I just think it sort of puts the responsibility to remind parents that before you send your child, you have to answer these questions. It will remind them to stop and check their child. But I realize also not everybody's going to do it. And, you can't hold everybody accountable at that point. But, it's time consuming. But I just wanted to say that that's out there. Also, I just wanted to ask if, I know you're limiting visitors in the building, but do visitors have to do a screener? Is there like a QR code on the door where they can answer questions?
The people who sign into the building, on the sign-in sheet, there is a statement at the top that says by signing this, and don't quote me on how it's phrased, but you do not have any symptoms, that you are basically okay to enter. They have to take their temperature when they come in. We limit the doors they come in so that we monitor who's coming and going from the building. Most of the people that are coming into the building are either, first and foremost, staff that have to travel between buildings. It's the COVID aides or the building subs. It might be Macomb County personnel. Maybe it's an OT, PT, or a EL providing services to students. But the normal guest visitors, We do have some construction workers that are coming through. Usually those we're confining towards after hours, and they have their own system of checking for COVID with their staff that we can have access to if we need to. But we are limiting, and they do have to sign in so that we have the ability to trace if there's a possible exposure.
Okay,
To
thank
go
you.
back to your screener, while we were doing the setting up the online registration, Pam Daly and I came across in PowerSchool, there is a COVID-19 screener. However, the downside is students would either have to log into their student account and enter it prior to coming to school. And then we'd have to check to see who didn't ask it. And when you have 500 kids coming out and going out of the high school, it's going to be very challenging to see
Yeah.
who's entered it, who's not on that list. The authors of the screener, I guess you would say, intended it to be used as when students get into class, the first thing they do in the morning is check the screener. You know, just in just saying that out loud, it seems it's a little too late because we've already then exposed kids who may have shown symptoms, now been in a building in a class. So that is one thing I'm exploring, but I haven't figured out logistically how that would work from that aspect. So.
Okay, thank you.
Anyone else have a question? And I'll open it up to the public. Okay, at this time, we have public comments just for our COVID-19. If any member of the public would like to address the board, please state your name and you have 3 minutes. Is there any public comments?
Yes, my name is Donna Staszewski. I spoke, I think 2 weeks ago. I appreciate the board looking into my comments and my questions, so it's much appreciated. I guess I just have one comment on, I think it was the wrestlers that were being tested and what they called the rapid tests. And then they go, if they get a positive rapid test, then they go for the CDC test. My question is, or comment is, if we're testing the athletes with the rapid test, why wouldn't they quarantine until they got a test back, the regular test back? It seems to me that that would make sense, that we would wait until we got the regular test back so that we knew for sure and keep them quarantined so that other kids wouldn't be exposed.
Okay, thank you. I don't know, Mr. Williams, if you have an answer to that, but we will have an answer or we will get a hold of you.
If you won't mind,
All right.
I'd like to just address it now because it's something that
Okay.
we have. The Chris Reinhardt, the athletic director, and at the time Andy Cass was involved. We did talk about that. We went through and looked at what is the written plans. The quarantine on the written plan kicks in on the CDC, and forgive me, I'm drawing the official name for the nasal swab test and not the rapid test. That is another question on my list as all districts are now doing this. Is the guideline for athletes who have the rapid test, is that now going to become our indicator, if you will, of being quarantined if that's a positive? Right now, it's just the nasal part of it, which is somewhat contradictory of you got a positive test in some fashion. I guess it goes back to what's the reliability of one test over the other. And so we are exploring, and I'm going to get an answer to that one because right now we're following what specifically is written, how we handle it, though there seems to be some contradictory on the that message that we're getting. So I will have an answer to that one by the next board meeting.
Okay, I appreciate your feedback and I appreciate you looking into the apps. I do. Thank you.
Are there any other public comments?
I don't see any hand raised.
I do not see any
on the-
either.
So I think that would be it then.
Okay, anything else, Mr. Walmsley, on that presentation, or we're all set?
I'll just leave the board as, we look at this as an administrative team. If there's things that are coming up and, when this was originally written back in August, there were some things that we were learning. There was the unknown, and we entered into this, and so we are definitely open to ways of improving. The information that I'm getting from every Tuesday, I do a meeting with our Macomb superintendents and national representatives. The trend is, or what people are predicting is, the rapid test is going to be a standard protocol for school districts potentially in the fall. And so we're looking at logistically how that is going to be facilitated on that. So
Wow.
Are they talking every student when they come in?
that's what I'm going to say the prediction, or what people are leaning towards as a way of screening to get this better under control, this this virus, and being able to open schools in the fall. Every single one of them has been resolute, if you will, they don't anticipate masks going away in the fall, that we will start school with masks and social distancing as we did. It won't be until the second semester that we see any type of ease up on restrictions. So it's going to be interesting. So I'll keep you updated as I know more information.
Okay, thank you. Okay, our next agenda item is public comments for the any other information. I would like to address two that we had at our last general meeting. The board wishes to acknowledge the REA's point on the lost wages over a period of many years. The board also wishes to acknowledge that Ms. Telto and the previous school board members have worked to increase our teacher pay, but also to keep Richmond Community Schools fiscally responsible. We also just addressed the issues with the COVID, and as Mr. Walmsley stated, he will check into that further question. At this time, if there are any public comments, you must please state your name, and you have 3 minutes. Are there any public comments?
Yes, good evening.
Good evening.
Yeah, this is Jeff Jarrett, State Representative. Mr. Superintendent, honorable board members, I just wanted to reach out as I do. I try to get around, once or twice a year. COVID's made it a little difficult. I know it's been a challenging year for schools. So again, it's definitely an honor that I was reelected, so I'll be serving you for another 2 years. Just connecting to, stopping in, listening to your meeting to see what, how things are going, return to learn, so forth, what challenge you have. And I just want to again reinforce the fact that I'm available for questions, if anything I can help with.
Thank you. Any other public comments? I do not
see anybody.
I don't either. Okay, we are going to move on in our agenda. Mr. Walmsley, is there any superintendent or legislative update?
Yes. Well, Representative Yarich, I will put a plug tomorrow. I think there's a listening tour tomorrow night on the 23rd on virtual. I'm sure he'd love to hear your positions on school funding for next year and getting everything. So it just says, I believe it's tomorrow at 7 o'clock-ish on Zoom. So.
Yes, it is, Mr. Superintendent. They can go to Facebook or the website to get the Zoom link. Since we can't do our usual listening event, we're gonna, we've been trying teletown halls in different ways, and we're gonna try it by Zoom.
So along that time last week, the Appropriations Committee began hearings on the governor's budget that was released. I would encourage everybody to follow along that and let your representatives know where you stand. They're going to look for input on that. They're going to look for, and I don't want to speak for the representative, but like they always do, to make sure that the money is being spent properly. There were some, during the hearings, there were some questions that were focused on some of the one-time spending and some of the new programs that are in the governor's budget. There was also some discussion on the governor's proposal to reduce the per pupil amount for cyber charter schools, which, as if you've been on the board for a while or attending board meetings or listening, it's been an ongoing conversation every year regarding the cyber schools. So last Friday, the CDC issued new guidance for opening schools. And when I look at these new guidance, we're trying our best in Richmond. We're already doing a lot of these. Some of them were looking at obviously wearing masks, social distancing. That does become challenging when you've got full classrooms and not a lot of extra classroom space to spread students out if we want all students to attend school during the normal school time. Hand washing, we've done that. We have scheduled breaks throughout our day in various times for various buildings for students to hand wash. Cleaning and disinfecting, we've hired COVID aides to come in and clean lockers and door handles and spaces between classrooms. And obviously contact tracing. Those are the 5 main areas that they're recommending for school districts who have not yet opened to put in place. Again, I think we've done an outstanding job given the circumstances and our staff. And they do it with a smile on their face every day because they know the importance of having kids in school. There was some Senate Bill 46 was passed that would exempt broadband equipment from the personal property tax beginning December 31st, 2020. There's some more details. The only concern regarding this is it's revenue being taken away, the sales tax from the school aid fund, and just making sure that there's enough money to support schools. And that's primarily what the major organization, Michigan Association of School Boards, school administrators expressed their concern regarding if you're losing revenue for a funding source, how are we making up? There was a Senate panel that was considering testimony on Senate Bill 121, which talked about basically creating regions for the state school board rather than being elected at large from the state, that there would be regions and representatives of the state school board would represent their regions. In a nutshell, I'm sure there's a lot more detail on it, but they are hearing discussion on that. Currently, a majority of the state board comes from the Southeast Michigan region, and some of the districts and areas outside of the Southeast region, they may have different issues and feel that their representation might not be being heard at the table of the state board. So that's somewhat of one of the reasons of the primary. So just something to watch that may change. From a district level, coming up on Wednesday, March 3rd, Thursday, March 4th, and Friday, March 5th, which will be next week, our parent-teacher conferences. We're already 5 weeks into the second semester. Time is going very fast. You will receive more information, parents will receive more information from their child's teacher or the school on scheduling their time to have conferences with teacher. Just a reminder, those are half days of school. On Wednesday and Thursday is afternoon conferences, and on Thursday is also an evening conference. I talked about it at the last board meeting, but it's going to be coming up very quickly. On Wednesday, March 11th is preschool roundup. We'll be welcoming the class of 2035 and 2036. And then on March 11th, which is a Thursday, we'll be welcoming the class of 2034 for kindergarten roundup. This will be done virtually. Mrs. Era and Mr. Koshin and Mrs. Napier, among with many staff members at the Lee, are putting together a virtual presentation which will allow parents who haven't been in the building a virtual tour of the building. They'll go through what to expect in a day in the life of a kindergartner. We will also be launching online registration. We're moving to 100% virtual. I say that with an asterisk because if someone has problems with virtual, obviously they can come in and we will help them and get them registered. But that's coming up. I can't believe I'm saying the class of 2036. That will be here very soon. Advertisements in newspapers have gone out this past Sunday. It should be in this Wednesday, this coming Sunday, and next Wednesday. We also have postcards that have been mailed to households in the district, Richmond Township, Casco, Columbus, Lenox Township, and the city of Richmond, that those should be going out this week, reminding parents of the upcoming kindergarten and preschool roundup.
Hey, Brian.
Yes.
The class of 2035 and 36, is that on the 10th? You said both on the 11th. I just want to make
The
sure.
preschool roundup's on the 10th. So
Okay.
that's 2035 and 36. And the kindergarten roundup is on the 11th Thursday, which is 2034.
Do you know the times on those?
They will start at 5 o'clock. They will
Okay.
be videotaped or recorded so that if someone cannot attend, we will have the recordings on the website, which will allow them to rewatch it. We're also going through, in fact, we were discussing it today, kind of a very simple, I'm going to call it a cheat sheet for lack of better words, for parents to do the online registration. It is pretty easy, but with anything new, there's maybe some hesitation. So it will all be done through the parent portal. So parents who are familiar with the parent portal, will literally just go into their parent portal. On the left side will be a forms button they'll click on, and they'll be able to access the forms. The nice part about this whole online system is all the forms that we normally would send out at the beginning of the year, like the demographics to change any emails, addresses, contact, all that will also be done next year through the parent portal. So when the change is made, it's automatically entered into the PowerSchool system. So the data entry, the hours and days that it took secretaries to get caught up with all the forms that came in, hopefully will expedite on their end. They'll just be pretty much verifying and confirming that it's correct, at least in a visual, that they can upload it to the website. So we're very excited about that automation, because it will expedite a lot of what we do and become more efficient. Since our last meeting, I think actually on the 8th, I had a meeting with the city manager regarding the OD. At the city of Richmond voted to have the manager talk to him. We did talk. John Moore and their Parks and Recreation Director, we met, we talked some options about the OD. There is a date planned this week, and I will be sending that out to the board, that we're working with Dominion Church to open the OD for not only our board members, but also the city council to get a look at the building. Many of them, it's been many years since they've been in the building, so they'd like to see before they commit to anything, the condition of the building. The article that was published in the Voice newspaper created some concern with Dominion Church, who currently is the rental of the OD. I did speak to the lead pastor, as well as a representative of the church board, assured them that they have been excellent tenants. They paid their bill. There's no issue from that end. We're just looking from a long-term perspective what we're going to do with the facility. There was conversation with Dominion Church about possibly their interest in possibly purchasing or coming up with an agreement with the OD. So I will keep the board informed on that. Anything that comes out of that, they're going to take it to their board and talk about it. They have been very pleased to be part of the community and have every intent to staying here. We'll see, but we're going to have further conversations with the city after they have a chance to walk through the building and get a sense of the building. And again, I will get that out to the board members. There will be an afternoon appointment as well as an evening appointment for people who have work schedules that prevent them from coming during the day, or evening commitments that prevent them from coming in the evening. With that's all I have.
Thank you. Okay, our next is items of interest from the school board. I have asked everyone, I gave them a little homework assignment we had our workshop last week. So I asked everyone to give one takeaway from the workshop and one commitment that they are willing to make. So I always start alphabetical, but we're going to go backwards. So we'll start with Ms. Zuby first.
Okay, thank you for that. Something I learned is a little bit more about meeting procedures and motions. Also a better understanding of what it is to be a board member. And one takeaway of, well, that was the takeaway. What I'll continue doing is working and listening to others and being open to other opinions and ideas, and hoping that we, have a good working relationship here.
Do you have anything else that you want to share, or anything else you want to enter in during this?
No, thank you. That was all.
Okay. Ms. Talto?
Yes, my takeaway from last week was that the work that we need to do is team building and trust building, working with the superintendent as opposed to the information that we got last week. And my, what I said at the meeting, what I circled, whatever that exercise that we did is, and I've had conversations with you, Deb, of working towards getting to that point.
Okay. Anything else, Margaret, you'd wish to share tonight?
Nope.
Thank you. Ms. Sutton?
All right. So what I took away from the meeting, I really liked how she inconspicuously came, got us to kind of think about further questions, just to reflect on our own, and came up with deeper questions that we didn't even probably know we had. And I really liked the takeaway of the cohesiveness and just being committed to being a voice for everybody in the district.
Anything else you'd like to share tonight?
No, I'm good. I think just the one thing I did jot down was kind of just to reinforce what Brian said and what our parent had said and recommended is, doing those self-checks at home is huge. And I know we don't want to stay home with our kid, but it's super important that we stay home, because my son was a direct result of that around Christmas time, and he was quarantined for 14 days because a parent tested positive, but they still sent their kid to school. So now all of those kids got quarantined, and it was, I have to say, a mental health nightmare for my own kids, and I can imagine others. So take that into consideration when sending your kiddos to school.
Thank you. Mr. Simmons, I know you were unable to attend. Is there anything you'd like to share?
Well, in reviewing the materials, I thought it was a nice reminder that we don't have to be instant experts, and I thought that was fitting, given Tammy's presentation 2 weeks ago. It was very extensive and a lot to process, and I mean, I had questions when it was done. So, I mean, just because you don't get it, I mean, there are questions to be asked, and to make sure that you have a firm understanding of information and what's going on, that you really don't have to be an instant expert. If you have questions, educate yourself and go forward.
Thank you. Anything else you'd like to share this evening?
No, thank you.
Okay. Ms. Shoeboy?
Thank you. My dogs may bark. I think my daughter's entering home. I apologize if they do. I'm going to mute myself if they do. My biggest takeaway was a better understanding of Robert's rules. She presented very well, I thought. It was a very well-informed meeting, and I was glad that I was able to attend it. I think what I got out of it the most, and what I think just being a little bit more open-minded and willing to work with others is big and huge in my eyes.
Thank you. Is there anything else you'd like to share this evening?
No, thank you.
Ms. Facito?
Thank you. One of the many takeaways from last week's workshop that really resonated with me was that when we as a board members make decisions meant to just, directly affect our local district, we can sometimes find ourselves influencing other districts across the state, which we've kind of noticed with our Return to Learning plan this year. It is humbling and inspiring to me to learn, that us as board members, we really do have a chance to make a difference, and a wide-reaching difference in the education world. The one item that I'm willing to commit to is the no surprise rule. I began as a board member preferring to use the no surprise rule. Then slowly, I have chosen to instead speak out during the meetings to allow for our thought process to be seen by our constituents. I recognize that this may present a challenge for members to be prepared. So instead, I commit to returning to being as forthcoming ahead of time as possible in order to eliminate surprises and to help build trust.
Thank you. Is there anything else you wish to share this evening?
No, thank you.
Okay, so my takeaway from last week is that there is a direct correlation between a well-run school board and our student test scores. And for me, that's huge because of where I came from. And I never looked at it that way. So that was a big takeaway for me. And I too am willing to commit to keeping an open mind and listening to all sides of an issue whenever we make a decision. And everybody here on the board, I commit to running a meeting where we are all heard, because I think that's very important. And I have nothing else for this evening. Okay, we're on to our action items. I am looking for a motion to approve the 21-22 middle school, high school course catalog.
I motion to accept the recommendation of the superintendent and approve the 2021-22 middle school and high school course catalog as presented at the February 8, 2021 Board of Education meeting and outlined in the attached documentations.
Do I have a support?
Support.
Was that Sherry that supported that?
Yeah, I did,
Oh,
Thank you.
along with others, but
She's the loudest.
any discussion?
Deb, I just had that question on that culinary class. Did we get an answer, Mr. Walmsley, about the 9th grade student?
Yes,
Question?
Mr. Castle did ask the chef. There is no restrictions on the safety for the knife for 9th grade. There is restrictions on a slicer, but we don't use the slicer in the program, that you have to be a certain age, but from a knife, that is part of the school, not school safety, the Safe Serve program in terms of how you handle the equipment. The option really is, they could. It's more of a restriction of the courses to get their main courses done so that they can not be worried about being off track for graduation. But there's nothing that prevents a 9th grader from taking the course.
Okay.
So I
Thank
guess
you.
that would be, we really want to have more, because there is our current numbers. We currently run a full day, and we have more kids that have chosen it at least this past year, than we have spots for in that course. So opening up to additional kids might prevent more kids from not getting it and forcing them into a second choice that they may not necessarily want when they do the initial scheduling. So that would be the answer. There's nothing saying that it can't be 9th grade. We have elected it to be 10th, 11th, 12th.
Okay, well, it's a good problem to have that lots of kids want in the class,
Yeah.
so.
Absolutely.
I just want to remind those that were new on the board, whatever, 4 years ago, and Deb, you know this, how many kids we were sending to Pancal for this culinary program.
Oh, absolutely.
And this was one of the best things the board did in terms of putting this program in to keep those kids in our district. And Mr. Chef Vinny is outstanding. He is unbelievable in that program.
Yeah. I think what started us getting with this program was the fact that we had so many kids that wanted it, and we'd get like 3 spots at Pancal.
Right.
Yeah.
So I'm glad that we are offering, we got this program together and we're able to offer it. I think it's a great program. Is there any other discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
I
Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries. Okay, I need a motion. I'm looking for a motion to approve the fiscal year 2021 budget amendment number 2.
Motion to
Aye.
accept the recommendation of the superintendent and approve FY 2021 budget amendment number 2 as presented at the February 8th, 2021 Board of Education meeting and outlined in the attached documentation.
Support.
support.
Any discussion?
I did get a couple questions. One of the questions regarding was grant funds, our current COVID dollars, et cetera. What happens when that revenue goes away? The line item for the expense also goes away. So the revenue will be decreased as well as the expenses. And we have been very cautious on what we use in that COVID-19, any type of relief fund dollars, that they are basically one-time purchases. There is going to be an issue that will come to the board at some point, because if you recall, one FTE counselor is paid out of COVID grant dollars. So when those funds finally exhaust, and I'm making an assumption here, and it's strictly an assumption, that the funds that were approved by the federal government in December that are still at the state level now, if those have the same restrictions that we have, that we can continue paying that counselor out of those dollars. But at some point when all those funds exhaust, the board's gonna have to make a decision. Do you want to cut a counselor and maybe a half-time in the buildings or a whole, or put that back into general fund, which will then tighten the general funds? So that was one question regarding the expenses. And, oh my goodness, I think I was Sherry. Did I get your question? I thought there was a second one. I'm drawing a blank on it. One was about the expenses and revenue, and Deb, you asked that question. And
I did.
I
forgive
can't
me
remember
if
what
there
I
was
asked
another
now.
question. I'm drawing a blank on it, so forgive me. But all the questions got answered. Those were the only two, and I'm drawing a blank on the second one.
I don't remember either.
We had them answered, so I guess we'll not worry about it.
The only thing I'll add to the budget is, and we just received it last Friday, this budget does not include revenue from robotics. We have the expenses for the grant, but we do not include, which is about $19,000 of expenses with our match. We did receive notice that we only are receiving $12,000. So in the budget amendment 3, we will have $12,000 more of revenue, roughly 12,000. I think it's like there's some change with that, but we've already built the expenses in the budget. So we did not get the full amount that we normally get for robotics. We only got 12,000 rather than the 19,000. So it's disheartening, because we're one of the very few schools that have so many different robotics programs at all levels, and it's disheartening. So, but we got it. So that will come up in budget amendment 3.
And I think the other question had to do with virtual pay for the teachers. Is that correct?
Yep, that was it, Tammy.
Virtual pay for the teachers.
That we,
Oh, yes, thank you. As when we launched our virtual option, at the time we did it, and in the current teacher contract, there still is one furlough day that the teachers have. So we agreed to give them their day in compensation for doing the virtual program that we did. That was a 1-year agreement. So if we're going to continue the virtual option, we will have to sit down with the teachers union and renegotiate that for next year. So that equates to, when you include FICA and retirement, about $38,000 that it costs us to do the virtual program, which we used COVID dollars to pay that, because this is strictly as a result of COVID. We wouldn't have this current virtual program if it wasn't for COVID. So yes, thank you. That was it.
So that could be an issue if we choose to run it next year, which I think we talked about might be a possibility if we don't get the money.
Well, we do know there's some dollars that have been allocated already from the federal government in December, which, based on the Title I formula, it was around $424,000 for Richmond. We just don't know how it's going to come to us, and how the budget negotiations play out. If you recall, on one of the first stimulus packages, the state's finances were in a little different situation, so they cut us 175 and then gave us 350, and then kind of backfilled it with some CARES money. But you're right, we don't know when and how that will come to us. whether it will be in this year's budget or next year's budget. And then you have the looming, I don't know, looming is the right word, what's going on right now at the federal government with the 1.4, 1.9 trillion, whatever. I don't even know what the dollar amount is anymore, I'll be honest with you. If that were to pass, it's estimated it's 4 times the amount of what we're currently getting. So it would be significant dollars. Now, again, it all has to go through a process. So, but there is dollars coming at some point regarding CARES and COVID related. So I think they call them ESSER is the name they're using.
Any other questions or discussion? This is a roll call vote. Okay, Angela?
Aye.
Bridget?
Aye.
Kyle?
Aye.
Danielle?
Aye.
Margaret?
Aye.
Sherry?
Aye.
And I vote aye. Motion carries. I am looking for a motion to confirm our extended 19 learning plan.
A motion to accept the recommendation of the superintendent as presented in the attached documentation and approve the confirmation of the extended COVID-19 learning plan for the 2020-2021 school year as it was originally approved and amended on November 9th and November 23rd to include a revised school calendar and virtual learning schedule outlined in the attached documentation. This action confirms how instruction is to be delivered, provided an opportunity for parents and or guardians to provide public comment on the plan, and reported the weekly two-way interaction rates to date.
Support.
Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries. I am looking for a motion to approve the Delta network upgrade.
I'll read it. I motion to accept the recommendation of the superintendent and to approve a contract with Delta Networks for data network upgrade for an amount not to exceed $311,358.53 as outlined in the attached documentation. This project is authorized in the application for preliminary qualification of bonds approved by the Michigan Department of Treasury and the voters of Richmond Community Schools, for which funding from the 2020 School Building and Site Bonds Series 1 is authorized.
Do I have a support?
Support.
Any discussion?
Yeah, Deb, I believe Danielle said in her motion, Data Networks. It's Delta Networks is the company that we're approving.
Okay,
It's Delta Networks for data network upgrade.
There you go.
thank you.
Thank you.
Any discussion?
I do have Eric Lamont here. There's a lot in this. This is, as I said in the backup, a lot of this is required for us to do the PA systems and the clock systems, as well as the additional switches and so forth. If there are any specific questions, you have a list of the items that will be purchased. Initially, Delta was not the lowest, but they didn't include a backup for the firewall. So when you include their unit price, they C-High was the lowest, but when you include that backup in C-High, it actually puts Delta as the lowest because that's what we want. Some of the stuff that was purchased in the last bond, so we are now upgrading those systems, and it's pretty extensive and for it. So if there's any questions, Eric is here to answer them because some of this is beyond my scope. That's why I brought the expert in. So.
I guess my only question is will this improve our internet capability throughout the school for students?
Oh, yeah, it's going to improve. We have a really good connection as it is now, but it will improve. Yeah, absolutely.
Eric, we've used C-High before, and obviously we're going with Delta. So you're confident in this
Oh,
company?
we've used Delta has been our contractor for switches and
Okay,
connectivity. Yes. Yes,
Okay.
they're nothing but the best.
okay,
When we had the situation where we were cyber attacked,
yeah,
Delta was the one that was there helping us out, getting
Okay.
our servers and everything back. They got phenomenal service. I mean, we have nothing but good things to say. And CI is a good company. We've dealt with them in the past, but for
We-
what
we
this is
use-
doing, yes.
Yeah, Delta specifically deals with the switches and connectivity going from building to building. They deal in fiber, so they're top notch. They're well known around the state. In fact, I've recommended them to some other districts that haven't been using them, and
Okay.
they've just been very impressed with them. So they're unbelievable.
all right, thank you.
You're welcome.
Any other questions for Mr. Lamont?
I just like to add, one of the pluses of our new PA system and clocks is if there's an emergency or lockdown, we'll be able to visually show this in classrooms on the clocks, as well as in some of the projection systems that we're looking at that will actually come up on the screen. So it's more than just the switches, it's how everything interacts and works together. So, I can't thank Eric and his team enough, because this is a whole new language if you're not in the computer world that sometimes I don't understand, but we've got great people on the staff who know what they're doing.
Okay, this will be a roll call vote. Mrs. Pacito,
Aye.
Mrs. Shoeboy,
Aye.
Mr. Simmons,
Aye.
Ms. Sutton,
Aye.
Mrs. Kelto,
Aye,
Mrs. Zuby,
Aye.
Mrs. Mashan, I vote aye. Motion carries. Okay, there being no other business, we are adjourning at 8:07.